We're going to move now to panelist questions. Let's start with Tim Sink, who has a question that will be directed to Ms. Custer.
Good morning, and thank you both for being here this morning. My first question has to do with the national budget. When you consider what is required to pay for defense and security, Social Security, Medicare, safety net programs for the poor, programs to take care of veterans, at the end of the day, there's only about 13 to 15% left over for everything else. Both of you have characterized yourself as being fiscally responsible. So specifically, where will you cut to help balance the budget? And if cuts are not sufficient, do you support a tax increase?
I do not. I believe that we can balance our budget, and that's going to be job number one. And as I've said repeatedly, Congressman Bass actually voted for 8 different congressional pay raises while he was in Washington. The national debt grew from $4 trillion to $8 trillion in his tenure. I am going to insist on freezing congressional pay until we have a balanced budget. You know, the deficits in spending are one of the main reasons that I'm running for Congress. My husband and I are raising 2 sons, and we're very concerned about passing on this level of debt to the next generation. You spoke about the 2 wars. Congressman Bass supported the war in Iraq. He supports getting dragged in deeper to Afghanistan. I was opposed to the war in Iraq, and I wouldn't get dragged in deeper in Afghanistan. And frankly, I would support the veterans, and that's where he chose to cut the budget. I would not. So I wouldn't be voting to increase congressional pay. I'd be voting for cuts in our budget that are responsible, and the tax loopholes for companies shipping jobs overseas, and make sure that we create jobs right here at home so we can get our economy going again and bring those deficits down.
Ms. Custer, thank you. Mr. Bass, 1 minute.
Well, Annie, you know that the congressional pay raise issue is a pig in a poke, and it's an election year issue. I'm not even going to address that. You mentioned that the debt of the nation went from $4 trillion to $8 trillion in 12 years. It went from $8 trillion to $13 trillion in 4 years. We have to get the spending under control, number one. Number two, we have to do it in a responsible fashion, and we can't sustain $1.5 trillion deficits for 10 more years. America won't be around. I think we have to set as a goal to set the spending levels of the federal government back to where they were at the beginning of 2009. Secondly, we have to turn this economy around and get people to work in real jobs which provide revenue in tax receipts to the federal government and will increase or reduce the deficit because there'll be more money coming in. But we will not succeed in turning this economy around and shrinking our deficit if we're spending money by the hundreds of billions of dollars on a jobless stimulus bill. And my opponent and the President of the United States and Nancy Pelosi think we need more stimulus spending after more stimulus spending, and that's not the answer. We know that.